So, I have some questions, but there are some things I would like to say first, I say as I sit down at one of the outdoor tables. I felt like it had been forever since I had been outside, and I had to admit that I could use the fresh air almost as much as Hieronymous could. Not until you start eating, Hieronymous says sternly, and I just roll my eyes. Fine, I reply. Then I'll eat while you tell me about your complicated history with Melodia. Hieronymous just sighs. Tori, it was in the past, and it no longer concerns me or our relationship. I would like to let it go. All right, I reply. Then remind me to write a letter to Melodia tonight so I can ask her to explain her version of events. If you won't tell me yours, at least I can get some insight into what happened. Hieronymous sighs as he sinks his face into his hands. All right, Tori, all right. If you must know, she was part of my father's experiments to raise children in the other world. I do not know the details of what happened, but something he did killed her. Her tribe of whatever they're called made him link his life to hers, and they performed a solemn bond to bring her back. Was that really so painful? I ask him dryly. Yes, Hieronymous shouts, and I can't help but flinch. Yes, Tori, yes, I still feel guilty. Is that what you need to hear? Wait, what? I blink at him stupidly. You were a boy at the time. You weren't involved in that. Why do you feel guilty? Because my father's reckless pursuit for glory killed a girl, Hieronymous reminds me, and yet I let him spend time with you, alone. He was dangerous, and I put you in harm's way. Even when we first began our relationship, I was set to end it because I was so worried about what my father might do to you. You saw the letter he sent you after our betrothal. You saw the trap he sent along with it, enclosing the key to Ravane Cottage. He could have killed you right then. And now, you tell me that he literally tried to do what I most feared, that he tried to sacrifice your life to save mine. I did not warn you about what he was capable of because I was worried about scaring you away, and that is my fault. He kidnapped me and tortured me the first time I met him, I remind him quietly. Here, in this very house. I know how dangerous he was, Hieronymous, but he's dead now, and that is in the past. What's not in the past is Melodia and her visions. Some of mine came true. Why are you so sure that hers are fake? Because there is no witch or wizard alive that can tell the future, Hieronymous says firmly. There is no spell that can grant someone precognition, Tori. That's just fact. But it's also fact that I saw things in the orb she gave me, I tell him. I saw the house. I saw the crow. I saw the golden syrup. At least, I think that's what it was. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I saw it. Hieronymous just shakes his head. That's not possible. Then I don't know how we can be together, I tell him as I push away from the table. You don't have to believe it. Beige told me about the vision that Melodia gave you about Violet, and I agree with you on that. If you say you have a prediction that someone's going to die if they jump off a building, that's not really a prediction. That's just deductive reasoning. But I believe that something happened to me after the solemn bond, and I want to explore it further. If you won't support me, then I need to find someone that will. I want to support you, Hieronymous says quietly, backing down immediately. Just not in that way. But I turn to you for everything, I remind him. How am I supposed to be with you if I can't even talk to you about this? Hieronymous just shakes his head. I can try, he says at last, although I think he's saying it just to say it. I can try to be more open-minded, Tori. I would like to try. And I would like to get more answers as to why you used a spell to manipulate me, I snap at him. Or multiple spells, which honestly makes it worse. When did you do it? When you were sleeping, Hieronymous replies. And now I find myself at a crossroads. A crossroads? I ask, tilting my head to the side in confusion. What does that mean? I am not sure what will help our relationship heal, he admits at length. The truth or your ignorance? The truth, I say immediately, although I don't know what you think you have to gain by telling me that you're thinking about lying to me. I will not lie to you, Hieronymous says firmly. I am ashamed and embarrassed by what I did. I only used the affection spell on you after we became intimate, Tori. I was so afraid that you would wake up and push me away from you again, and I didn't know how to cope with that. I thought that, if you felt more comfortable with me, you would open up to me. So you used me to get the answers you wanted, I say flatly. I was trying to help you, Hieronymous replies. Yes, I did want to know what happened to me, but I also saw how upset you were keeping secrets from me. Didn't you feel so much better after you told me? I did, I admit, but that still doesn't make it okay. No, it doesn't, Hieronymous agrees. It doesn't make it okay the last few times I've done it either. The last few times? I repeat as I stare at him blankly. How long have you been doing this to me? Only the past year, he replies, and I can't help but stare at him. The first time was an accident, but you seemed so happy and so much more confident and self-assured in our relationship that I thought it was helping ease the distance between us. I remember when I had first seen Hieronymous again when I returned to Ravine Cottage after spending months away at Miss Minchin's. It was only for the weekend, but when I returned, I couldn't concentrate in class because I kept daydreaming about a shirtless Hieronymous. I thought I had just been a hormonal teenage girl with a bad crush, but was that part of the spell? And what about when I first returned to Iris Academy? All of my friends seemed freaked out by how emotional I got whenever Hieronymous's name came up in conversation. Was I just emotional that he had left? Or was I only that way because of the spells he had used on me? You will never do that to me again, I warn him, and Hieronymous shakes his head. No, I won't, Hieronymous says firmly. I won't, Tori. Look at me. I won't. I look up into his red-brown eyes, almost surprised to see that they're not sad or apologetic. They're determined. Honestly, it reminds me more of Professor Grabiner than anything else. If anything, I'm almost relieved that he isn't blubbering or breaking down like he did when he first woke up, but I wasn't sure this new mental state that he had transitioned into was much of an improvement. Did you do that to me because you think you have a free pass? I ask him suddenly. That you think, because of how much we've been through together, that I'm not going to leave you? I don't think that, Hieronymous replies, but I am also aware of the ways that I failed you as a husband. Melodia informed me of how willing you were to take on all of my duties because you wanted me to be happy. I realize now that my father was right. He said he wanted to keep you around because you would sacrifice your life for me if you had to. You would not die for me, but you were prepared to sacrifice the rest of your life to uphold my duties when that wasn't your burden to carry. There are no words nor actions I can think of that can properly express my humility or my apology. I just shake my head. I feel, for lack of a better word, miserable, and I almost wish that Hieronymous would just use another spell on me again so I could just go back to feeling euphoric just by the mere sight of him. Things are not okay between us, I say, and Hieronymous sighs as he closes his eyes. The fact that you would use these spells on me means that you don't respect me. It means you don't treat me like an equal. I don't know how I'm going to get past that, but it's not something that a spell can fix. I understand, Hieronymous says quietly as he dips his eyes down. If you want to go to Shetlock to get some space for me, I understand. I don't want space, I tell him firmly, and he seems surprised as he glances up at me. I want you to put in the work. I am not going to leave you. I do care about you, but I need you to start opening up to me more. When I ask you about things from your past, I need straight answers. When I tell you I need support, I need to know that you will at least try. I will try, Hieronymous says firmly. Whatever you need from me, Tori, consider me at your disposal. I pause for a moment as I stare down at the empty plate in front of me. It had been empty for quite some time, but I couldn't eat any more food at the moment. Eating was not going to help me feel better. I want a hug, I say at length, and without waiting, I quickly get up and scoot into Hieronymus's lap as he wraps his arms around me. May I kiss you? He asks, and I nod. Where? Where? I ask as I arch an eyebrow. I was wrong to manipulate you, Hieronymus says. I want to make sure I don't do anything that violates my respect for you ever again. I laugh gently as I kiss the bridge of his nose. Well, acknowledging what you've done wrong and showing me that you won't make the same mistakes again is a good start. And groveling? Hieronymus asks, and I can't help but grin. Yeah, groveling works too. I pause for a moment. So how long is the spell going to last for? Affection spells are not strong magic, Hieronymus explains. It depends on the subject's state of mind, but they usually only last a few hours. Even the strongest spells couldn't last more than a day. I pause as I take this in. And when was the last time you used this spell on me? Yesterday morning, I believe, Hieronymus replies, and I pause as I take this in. But we spent all morning cuddling, I say softly, and I was so happy. You mean that wasn't part of the affection spell? No, it wasn't, Hieronymus says softly. I only meant to use it to help us get through this rough patch, to help you trust me again. If anything, it seems to have had the opposite effect. I hesitate as I think it over. I could understand Hieronymus's desperation. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would probably be tempted to use a spell to make things better too. I had to admit that I hadn't been doing a great job being an emotional rock for him either. I had snapped at him on more than one occasion, and I could understand how Hieronymus was afraid that I might suddenly change my mind and decide I didn't want to be with him anymore after he had betrayed my trust in him. I had been nervous about becoming intimate with him again, but he probably felt just as insecure as I did. I'm sorry that I haven't been there for you as much as I should have been, I say quietly. It doesn't excuse what you did, but I forgive you for doing it. And I do believe you when you say that you won't do it to me again. I won't, Hieronymus says firmly. And I understand that it will take some time before you trust me enough to be intimate with me again, but I will wait until you're ready. I just shrug. No. Hieronymus raises his eyebrows in surprise. No? I'm not saying you were right to do it, but I think it did help, I admit slowly. I feel more comfortable with you again. I don't feel as moody, and I was happier than I have been in the past 7 months. I felt like things were getting back to normal, and I don't want to go back to awkwardly skirting around each other again. Then what can I do to make it better? Hieronymus asks, and I can't help but smile as I kiss him gently. I want to do something that makes us feel like a couple again, I say thoughtfully, but not something that has to do with sex. We could go swimming. Do you feel like you might be able to handle that? I'm not sure, Hieronymus admits. I don't want to put you in a position where you'd have to save me from drowning, but I can sit on the edge at the very least. You might be better swimming than standing, I point out. Maybe we'll have to get you a giant fish tank and you'll just have to float everywhere from now on. Yes, and maybe I can grow gills and just join the mer colony that lives in the ruins of Atlantis, he replies as he gets to his feet, and I can't help but stare at him. Wait a minute, mermaids are real? I ask him, and Hieronymous just grins.